Gopi Janavara Girivardhari Yashodanandana Rajajanarandana Yashodanandana Rajajanarandana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Amadava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jayam Vishnu Pada Paramahamsa Parivraj Vicharya Ashtota Satishla A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Shishi Panchatattva Ki Shishi Nishingadev Bhagavan Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai Shishi Radha Madhava Ki Harinama Sankirtan Ki Brihat Madanga Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Shri Mayapur Dham Ki Gauda Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pastaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswate Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivasesha Sunyavari Paschachade Shatarine. Hare Krishna. Today we're reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam. Is that okay? Canto 3, Chapter 24, text number 16. The title of the chapter is The Renunciation of Kardama Muni. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Kindly repeat. Veda, aham, ādyam, puruṣam, avatīrṇaṁ, sva-māyayā, bhūtānāṁ, śevadhiṁ, deham, bibhrāṇaṁ, kapilam, mune, vedāham, ādyam, puruṣam, avatīrṇaṁ, sva-māyayā, bhūtānāṁ, śevadhiṁ, deham, bibhrāṇaṁ kapilaṁ mune, vedāham ādyam puruṣam, avatīrṇaṁ sva-māyayā, bhūtānāṁ śevadhiṁ deham, bibhrāṇaṁ kapilam mune, vedāham ādyam puruṣam, avatīrṇaṁ sva-māyayā, bhūtānāṁ śevadhiṁ deham, bibhrāṇaṁ kapilam mune. Edam puruṣam ādyam puruṣam avatīrṇaṁ sva-māyayā, bhūtānāṁ śevadhiṁ deham, bibhrāṇaṁ kapilaṁ. Vedāham ādyam puruṣam avatīrṇaṁ sva-māyayā, bhūtānāṁ śevadhiṁ deham, bibhrāṇaṁ kapilaṁ mune. Bhūtānāṁ śevadhiṁ deham, bibhrāṇaṁ kapilaṁ mune. Veda. Know. Aham. I. Ādyam. The original. Puruṣam. Enjoyer. Avatīrṇaṁ. Incarnated. Sva-māyayā. By his own internal energy. Bhūtānāṁ, of all the living entities. Śevadhiṁ, the bestower of all desired. Who is just like a vast treasure. Deham, the body. Bibhrāṇaṁ, assuming. Kapilam, Kapila Muni. Mune, O sage Kardama. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. O Kardama, I know that the original Supreme Personality of Godhead has now appeared as an incarnation by His internal energy. He is the bestower of all desired by the living entities, and He is now assumed the body of Kapila Muni. Can you hear at the back? Is it, do I need to adjust or anything? It's okay? Thank you. Let me know if there's any shortcoming in the volume. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In this verse we find the words puruṣam, avatīrṇaṁ, sva-māyayā. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is everlastingly, eternally the form of puruṣa, the predominator or enjoyer. And when he appears, he never accepts anything of this material energy. The spiritual world is a manifestation of his personal internal potency, whereas the material world is a manifestation of his material or differentiated energy. The word sva-māyayā, by his own internal potency, indicates that whenever the Supreme Personality of Godhead descends, he comes in his own energy. He may assume the body of a human being, but that body is not material. In Bhagavad Gita, therefore, it is clearly stated that only fools and rascals, mudas, consider, only fools and rascals, the mudhas, consider the body of Krishna to be the body of a common human being. The word śevadhiṁ means that he is the original bestower of all the necessities of life upon the living entities. In the Vedas also, it is stated that he is the chief living entity and that he bestows all the desired necessities of other living entities. Because he is the bestower of the necessities of all others, he is called God. The Supreme is also a living entity. He is not impersonal. As we are individual, the Supreme Personality of Godhead is also individual. But he is the supreme individual. That is the difference between God and the ordinary living entities. End of purport. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So thank you all very much for your being here today and giving us your association. Today there is no translation into Bengali. We apologize if that is, let's say, for those who do not speak English and speak Bengali, we apologize for that fact. But time is short. We all have a limited lifespan, and within the framework of this world, everything is measured. This external energy is another aspect of Krishna. You cannot measure him. Time is immeasurable. He is immeasurable. But as of now, we have to live within the realm of time, and we have to finish by a certain time to go on to another activity. Usually it's prasadam. And for sure, we don't miss prasadam. We may miss class, or like me, or whatever. But prasadam is a must. So I was contemplating what to try to speak, if you say that, with your kind blessings, and that I can say a few words. I'll just read one verse which always, to me, is a very special verse from the Bhagavatam. Every verse is special. I won't read the Sanskrit, we have little time on our hands. But the English, this is spoken by Sutta Goswami in the first canto of the Bhagavatam. Some of you are familiar with it. It's from the 18th chapter. It's in response to the enthusiastic inquiries of Parikshit Maharaj. Inquiries. Here in the verses we're reading, Lord Brahma is responding to Kardama Muni's submissive approach. And in this verse, Sutta Goswami is responding. So he starts his response like this. O Rishis, who are as powerfully pure, not Parikshit Raj, rather the resident of Naimisharanya, the sages of Naimisharanya, their enthusiasm. O Rishis, who are as powerfully pure as the sun, I shall try to describe to you the transcendental pastimes of Vishnu as far as my knowledge allows. This verse we read today from the Bhagavatam is giving knowledge. Important knowledge, foundational knowledge, without which we cannot really build our devotional creeper. Sambandha Gyan. Previously we heard in a few verses earlier how to receive that knowledge submissively from the spiritual master. The last 2 days have been dealing with, you could look at it in different ways, but an important responsibility for those on the spiritual path to fulfill their various duties. And today, Lord Brahma is giving essential knowledge to Kardama about the nature of the Absolute. So here Sutta Goswami says, as far as my knowledge, we all need knowledge. Materially, spiritually, in so many ways, which we may, if you allow, if the Lord allows, speak a little on later on. Then he goes on to say, as the, who knows the next line? As the, it's not an oft-quoted verse, but it is known. As the, pardon? As the birds. And what do the birds do? They fly. As the birds fly in the sky, as far as their what? Capacity allows. They can fly so far, maybe a long time, long way, but they have a capacity. They can't fly further. So do the learned devotees describe the Lord as far as their realization allows. We have knowledge and we have realization. And in one sense, that's from my angle at least, and you can see from many angles, but the practical aspect of this verse is how to realize the knowledge. Sometimes we have a lot of learning, and we call knowledge. Huh? Some of you are in the educational department. Hare Krishna. But we all know that knowledge is needed, but its value is how much we're actually putting it into practice. We'll hear about that later. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, as birds can fly in only part of the sky, very poetic, similarly the great learned devotees can only partly estimate the pastimes of the Lord in different features. So Srila Sutta Goswami has rightly taken this position in describing the pastimes of the Lord, as far as he has realized. Factually, only the Lord himself can describe himself. And his learned devotee also can describe him as far as the Lord gives him the power of description. So, if Srila Prabhupada had not given us this knowledge, what would we know about Krishna? Some of you are from Indian descent. You may have grown up in, a Hindu family, and some ideas there, no doubt. For many of us, we were not raised in a Hindu family. I had never heard the word Krishna till I was 19 years of age. And even then, what idea was there of Krishna? As Prabhupada says in today's purport, Krishna is a person. He is not impersonal. Now, for most of the Indian devotees, you may have brought up, you may have heard, you may not, but you may have heard that Krishna is not a person eternally, right? He's a manifestation of the transformation of the mode of goodness, which originates as the impersonal Brahman, another aspect of the impersonal form. He doesn't have his eternal individuality. Or he's another one of the gods, right? Unlimited gods. You're one of them, by the way. Different, let's say, falsities or imperfection. If Srila Prabhupada, even in their Western upbringing, the understanding of God is very shallow. Some of the points we hear today, Purusha, okay, he's the original controller, enjoyer. Maybe that's not so well understood. But he's a provider. That's a very common one mentioned here in the verse today. He's the supreme provider. He is providing the needs of all living beings. Very deep topic. We may hear that. But that's about it. He's all good. He's all loving. Then we question, well, then why is this? Why is that? Why am I born in a, blind? What type of God is this? People may question. They have very little understanding of Godhead. They have very little understanding of who we are and what is our relationship. Practically speaking, in the whole world, of course, many devotees are here, but taking to the world itself, Srila Prabhupada is the only one who has clarified the reality of the absolute truth in full. Isn't it? Now, realization, knowledge. Now, I have a little knowledge that 60 years ago, because we heard it from Prabhupada actually. 60 years ago, some of you don't know where you were. Some of us still don't know where we are. We're in Mayapur, if you don't know it. Kind of. At least environmentally, we're in consciousness may not be, but at least. 60 years ago, I know where I was, physically, mentally to some degree. 60 years ago, this year is a very special year. It's the 60th year of what? Pardon? Louder. Whoa! The International Society for Krishna Consciousness. 60 years ago, Srila Prabhupada incorporated ISKCON. We have to wait a few more months for that event officially to be honored, I suppose. But still, Srila Prabhupada has already started it. It's just not so much on the surface. Goes back a long way. We're not going back a long way. We're going to February, 60 years ago. Where was Prabhupada? Come on, easy question. Where was he? New York. New York. I've come from New Mayapur. It looks older than Mayapur, especially the buildings and the devotees. But anyway, New York. And where was Prabhupada in New York? Was he in Brooklyn? No. Where was he? No. Not in February. Oh, a little bit later. The Bowery even was a little bit later. And after the Bowery was 2nd Avenue. So where was Prabhupada in February? He left a little bit later from this place. I don't remember the name of the street. 74th Upper Street or something like that. I was in a little tiny room. No bathroom. No kitchen. No toilet. Just a little sink in the corner. No furniture. Where were you? You don't know. You were in Amsterdam, were you? You probably had a little bit more facility. Probably. At least a chair to sit on. Probably had nothing. Literally, I mean a room. February, freezing cold. Winter. Anyone who knows New York? January, February, freezing cold, huh? Usually. Prabhupada was alone. He had no money. But he had the most valuable thing that exists. Not just knowledge of the absolute truth, but he is the seer of their truth, huh? Isn't it? With a famous verse in the Bhagavad Gita. What is that? Tad vidi. All together. Tattvadarshina. He's a seer of tattva, of the truth. No one else practically was, those who were seeing it were not helping others to see it much. But Srila Prabhupada sacrificed everything to give us a chance to, we may not see, but at least we have our CC, Chaitanya Charitamrita, but we have knowledge. And by applying that knowledge, by the mercy of Krishna in the appropriate way, the Lord will give the realization. Nobody else is giving that. Some theoretical knowledge, usually short of the mark, people may give. But I want to read something about Prabhupada. When he was in New York, in that little room, whatever it was, I think it was Upper 74th Street, but I may be wrong. Not far from Dr. Mishra's yoga studio. He would go there, sometimes he'd have to go there to take a bath. Sometimes he'd go to the public bath. Go there to get his meals, cook his meals, walk. Now you can't even walk now, practically. To go more than 100 meters, we have to get in a car or a motorbike. We don't have horses anymore. On what to do. But Prabhupada had to walk. He would go all over the place. And you'll see one of the interesting facets of this few points which I picked out here from a diary. Now, this diary didn't come to light until quite a long time after Srila Prabhupada's unmanifested pastime, where he left us. But this diary was not available then. And a lot of information in this diary was not accessible in the Lilamrita, for instance. This diary has been given the name, The Beginning. Because after the Jaladuta diary, Prabhupada was more or less alone for like the next 9-10 months or whatever. But he kept a diary, and quite specific. Quite specific. We have Harisori Prabhu's transcendental diary. He used to keep quite a specific record of his time with Prabhupada. And now we have the great opportunity to enter into that association through his transcendental diaries. And of course, we have the greatest opportunity to enter into Srila Prabhupada's association here, Sutta Goswami, Kardama Muni, the sages of Naimishranya, Lord Brahma. We have the association of them through Srila Prabhupada's mercy in the form of his books. But it started here, it started way back, but more or less we could say a start took place here. And I'm going to go back to the beginning. We don't start at the end. So this is 60 years ago. I'm going by the Gregorian calendar. That means the Western calendar, not the Vedic one. So there'll be a day or two differences there, but never mind. So I'm starting on February the 11th. Prabhupada was posting out letters like anything. No internet, no WhatsApp. Handwritten letters, sometimes typed, but usually handwritten letters. We used to do, and some of you may have heard about that. That people used to write letters. And you get them in the post. Do you remember those days? Practically all of Prabhupada's communication outside of his books and his direct Sangha was through post. He didn't use the mobile phone. There wasn't one. In fact, he didn't use the phone an awful lot either. It wasn't so easy to phone, especially if you were in India. It could take you all day to make one phone call. And Rameshwar Prabhu very well knows when the telex machine became an invention, a great breakthrough in communication, how Srila Prabhupada wasn't overly enthusiastic about it being used in all of it. He said it will simply increase the gossip. Goodness gracious, you don't even know what a telex machine is. If that increases the gossip, then what to say of a mobile phone? Huh? Internet was one thing. Now we've got these. And then, believe me, there'll be another thing next. There probably already is, which makes it even easier to spread gossip. Or whatever. But Prabhupada's writing, and he was writing to all sorts of people. He wrote to newspapers, the Morning Telegram, all on the same day. The Times Mirror Company, the radio station master, different places, all over the place. And different other organizations he wrote to try to get this message through of Godhead. But nobody was reciprocating. Nobody. He was holding evening program, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Every evening. And on February the 11th, there was no response of the visitors invited to come and join the Hare Krishna Kirtan. Nobody came. He was alone in his room this evening at 7:30 p.m. But I alone executed the Kirtan ceremony with my tape recorder till 10 p.m. He chanted alone kirtan for 2.5 hours in New York in his room. Nobody else was there. And if you come to a kirtan mela now, and you're leading the kirtan, and nobody comes, will you come back next year if I invite you? Probably not. You see, the heart of Srila Prabhupada, it's a little different than ours, at least mine. Many things would jump over. February the 20th. Now, Prabhupada's sitting in his room, another time actually, when nobody came. And this is a very famous one. He recorded the introduction to the Bhagavad Gita. Nobody heard it on his reel-to-reel tape recorder. Now the whole world, in practically, I don't know about every language, but maybe 100 languages, Srila Prabhupada's words are now printed. Even a small book, Introduction to Bhagavad Gita, is distributed by the million on the street in many languages. That was recorded by Prabhupada when he was alone in New York. He says, Introduction to Gita-upanishad, recorded 2 sides, 3 hours. 21st, today's meeting, that's today, 60 years ago. Today, I think, is the 21st, yeah. 60 years ago, today on the Gregorian calendar, today's meeting was attended by greater number of members than other days. They liked the introduction. Prabhupada played the recording to them. They liked it very much. So they were the first ones to hear it, besides Krishna. Some of them brought fruits for me, and Mrs. LeBlanc paid $3. That's a French name, LeBlanc. You're auspicious. She paid $3. No letters were received, no expenditure made. Prabhupada used to keep a record of every cent that he spent and every cent that he received. 10 cents on a stamp, 30 cents on a bus to Times Square, like that. $1 received. Every single cent recorded in his diary. Then he says, on this day, a great inconvenience was caused today. Because for every day there's a great inconvenience. Being in this body is a great inconvenience. We just don't realize it. I've been sick for the last 10 days or so, up and down. I thought I was well, then this morning I went down again. I come up again. When you come up, you think, oh, what a relief. When you go down, ugh. But up and down, it's all the same. We're in ignorance, we're in illusion, we're in Maya, we're in the body. So Srila Prabhupada also had come to preach this message. He also had to go inconvenience. One day we'll wake up and realize what true life is, what true love is, what true devotion, what true happiness is. A great inconvenience was caused today. I mean, you could think of 1,000,001 reasons why, but what was the reason in this case? Does anyone catch it? A great inconvenience was caused. It wasn't by the snow outside. It wasn't because somebody stole his typewriter or what have you. Today, there was oozing. Oozing. You know the word oozing? What's oozing? Oozing means seeping out, coming out of something. Oozing out, slowly coming out. Oozing out. Nice word. Oozing out of dirty water from the sink. It's only a sink. And dirty water was oozing out of the pipe somewhere or another into the room. Probably, doesn't say, but it's often quite smelly also. You may have seen it. It spoiled all the mattresses on the floor. Prabhupada used to like to keep like cushions, mattresses, cloth on the floor like that. The superintendent was informed, but he could not help. He said he would report the matter to the office. It took 3 days to fix. Prabhupada had to tolerate, you know. Tolerate, tolerate, tolerate. Mrs. LeBlanc, which is another good fortune, we're just happy to say that, as you all know, that right in front of me here and over there I can see, are members of the Radha Londoneshwara Temple. Hare Krishna, give me your bead back. I'll give it back, don't worry. I learned one thing since joining this movement: try to avoid being a thief. There's a slogan on the back. Now, this is a famous slogan. It says, "Assume it can be done." Now, many of you know maybe not the original origin of this, but the ISKCON saint who is regularly quoting this. See, I'm a man of my word. We had a few witnesses, otherwise I may have. Prabhupada, you know, what he did and what he's still doing is impossible in the eyes of a conditioned soul. And what you're doing is impossible because of the sickness I've had. I had a problem sleeping, at least at the right time, so to speak. So for about 3 or 4 nights in a row, I was walking at night, slowly, very slowly around the compound, all around, hours, just slowly walking and seeing how much has developed. This year is not just the 60th year for me, and for many of us, maybe Paraveda Prabhu is different, but it's 50 years ago. I don't know, Sri Kama, I don't know when you first came to Mayapur, but it's exactly 50 years ago, probably to the day, this few days, that I first had the opportunity by Prabhupada's grace to come into this holy dham. And just to see the incredible change, it's sometimes when you're on your own, you get a kind of like a special picture comes in your heart. So I was just kind of seeing back 50 years ago. It was quite amazing. Especially when I walked along the boundary wall. I mean, you know, in front of the Samadhi, there's a boundary wall. It's kind of dwarfed. But in those days, 50 years ago, that was the main place of residence for the devotees. Unless you were a lot of devotees visiting. Some of the devotees were staying in the Lotus building, which still has its presence here. But mainly that was sannyasis, GBCs, and life members, and dignitaries. For us, plebs, we were all on the front wall, 12 in a room, which means you couldn't get in the room. I won't tell that story. That's too long. But it was bringing back all kinds of unique memories of how blissful it was, despite all the various inconveniences. There were no sinks for oozing whatever coming out. There was no sink to ooze. That's a pump, boom, 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 boom. Water splurting out. The sulab, is that what they call it? Sulab? Sulab? Sulab. Prasadam hall was the only prasadam hall. That was it, full stop. All there, sannyasis, GBCs, men, women, all in there. All honoring prasad. Now you don't even know it exists. It's stuck in the corner over there. The Lotus building was the only, the long building was not yet finished, under construction. Building site. That was it. But everything was made absolutely complete because Srila Prabhupada was here. Incredible experience. Others came earlier. Rameshwar probably would have come much earlier, no doubt. But that was my first year. I'm writing about it. But anyway, that's another thing. We'll carry on. Mrs. LeBlanc took away the tape record for writing Introduction to Gita Upanishad. So she was the first one. Just see. Definitely French origin. The first one to edit or read and put into written form, not read, but hear, and put into written form the words that Srila Prabhupada spoke, Gita Upanishad introduction. International, then Prabhupada says in his diary, now listen to this one, International Institute of God Consciousness, today signed by the floating members. That doesn't mean they were floating on the oozing water. I hope it doesn't mean that. But it means they're not really fixed up. They're just casual people who are coming to Prabhupada now and again. They come one day, never come back again. But they signed. It wasn't a legal document. It was just an unofficial document. They signed to be members of the International, was it Institute of God Consciousness? That's what Prabhupada called it. And there's a later footnote, which is in there, but it wasn't put in the book directly. Ladies and gentlemen, Prabhupada writes, I beg to inform you that the classes which I am holding now may be called, amazing sentence, the initiation classes for developing the International Institution for God Consciousness. Starting it, introducing, initiating persons who have no idea of the nature of Godhead. For the present, the classes may be held thrice in a week, namely Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 7 till 9 p.m. The contribution for expenses may not be less than $1 for each meeting, $3 per week. So I guess this Mrs. LeBlanc was the first one to give her $3 for the meetings. Other days, although I shall be available for discussion, there is no need of contribution. I hope you will agree to this proposal and give your kind assent by signature. A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And then the 7 names are mentioned. We won't know them. Obviously, Mrs. LeBlanc was one of them. One of them was known Harvey Cohen. Now, he was a very significant personality in the early days of ISKCON in New York. Later on, he went to San Francisco, and he basically invited Mukunda to come. He actually got initiated later on as Haridas, something or another. And a few others. There was Paul Murray, who Prabhupada eventually went to stay with in the Bowery. And there's another one named Robert Lefkowitz. He got initiated, Ravindra Swarup. Now, that's not our beloved Ravindra Swarup Prabhu who is residing over here in the apartment somewhere. That's an earlier one. He didn't stay around very long, but he was there then, and he got initiated by Prabhupada. Another one named James Green. I believe he also got initiated. I think he got initiated, Janardhan or something. We'll go on. So that's just a little bit, anyway, of Srila Prabhupada's first moments in New York, first months in New York, and what it was like, and the setting the scene to bring this knowledge unknown to the world before Krishna, and the relationship, like Prabhupada relates to. I'm not going to get onto the topic I really wanted to get onto at length, but just briefly, Srila Prabhupada mentions in the purport many points, and you could discuss those points one by one. They're all related. What points are there in the purport of today's lecture, today's verse? What points are there? Who can remember any of the points from the purport? Anybody? Pardon? Realization? That was my quote from Sutta. I don't know if it's in the purport, is it? I don't think so. That was my quote from Sutta Goswami from the 18th chapter of the first canto. But from the purport itself, who can remember anything? Yes, Prabhu. Avajananti mammudha manusham tanamashritam. Yes. He mentioned this very important verse. What does it mean? He didn't give the exact quote or translation. Fools deride me when I descend in my human-like form. They do not know my Yeah, my spiritual nature, by Krishna, isn't it? Evam paramparam praptam imam rajashayo viduhu. This knowledge comes down through parampara, is not a concoction. It is not someone's speculation. It is passed down. It is eternal knowledge. Real knowledge, real science is that which holds true under all circumstances. It is not a relative situation as such. That's avidya. It's not actually vidya. That which is only related to the phenomena which we perceive. But noumenal knowledge, Krishna gives that also. But noumenal knowledge is passed down like this. Eternal knowledge of the absolute truth of ourselves and our relationship with Him, the nature of time, and so on and so forth. So in the fourth chapter, he describes this. And then after describing the way that knowledge is received, Arjuna, who is eligible to receive it? Who is eligible to actually, anyone can learn it, but who's eligible to digest it? If you don't digest your food, you don't get much benefit, do you? You get sick. If you digest it, you get healthy. So who's eligible to digest this knowledge? Pardon? The non-envious, Arjuna. You are, because you are not envious of me. Therefore, I'm speaking this to you. You're my devotee also, but you're not envious. It comes up again in a later chapter, 18th chapter. If we're envious, we cannot understand. We can't absorb it. You can chant as much as we like and read and know and quote and this and that, but we haven't really digested it. We're not living it. Bhagavad Gita is alive. It's alive for us to guide us. It's a guide. We need guidance. It's a guidebook. And if we put it into practice, we can make progress. So Krishna then goes on to explain a little factor too, which is brought up in the purport today. There is a little difference, Arjuna, between you and me. We're both eternal. But there's a little difference. And Prabhupada quotes, he didn't quote, he refers to the verse, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam Eko Bahunam Yo Vidadati Kaman. He refers to this Vedic statement, which means, what does it mean? Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. What does it mean? That's the no, but what does it mean? I've already said that. What does it mean? Pardon? One, whether everyone's nitya, everyone's eternal. We're also nitya. So amongst all the nityas, there is one, like an original candle. There is one original, one supreme, from whom all the others are coming. And he always remains that. He doesn't transform into, the material energy or the all-pervasive Brahman or whatever it is, numerous competitive gods or something. He remains always in that situation. That's Krishna. Supreme, that Ishavasya, that Supreme Personality of Godhead. So many verses are there. But then he goes on to explain a little bit about his nature. And this verse is almost akin to today's. Text number 6 is quite a famous verse, like many of us old-bodied veterans, whatever we are, antiques, dinosaurs, whatever people call us. Memory slips a little bit sometimes. And this is a verse, we used to learn these verses and try to, understand how relevant they are to us, at least. At least as an understanding of why we are doing what we're doing. Ajopi san vyayatma bhūtānāṁ ishvaropi san prakritim sva-māyayā sambhavam-yatma-māyayā. By his internal potency. He doesn't appear under the external energy like we do. He comes, just like a big dignitary. He may bring practically his whole kitchen with him, his bedroom, everything practically. All of his food. He may come, he may even bring his own car from the far distant country in a special jumbo jet or something. He brings his whole world with him. Sometimes. Unfortunately, we also bring our world with us when we come to Mayapur sometimes. And it may not be a transcendental world. And we're looking around, where is my world? Where is the aircon? What's the password number, Prabhu? Earlier questions we asked. Where's the best prasadam around here? Where's the pizza stall? Where can I get this? Where can I get that? Where are my comforts? Sometimes we bring our world with us. We don't bring our oozing, smelly water with us. Well, that is oozing, smelly water maybe, but we don't, we know what I mean. We come here. Why do we come to Mayapur? Why do you come to Mayapur? For a holiday? What do you come here for? What are you doing here? These guys that come here to distribute books, we know these guys. We see them out there, they take their, they don't have hats, but they take their hat off. They take their shoes off. They pay their, and they have a little thing on their mobile saying, please take this book and give a donation. They're addicts. They're addicts to Prabhupada's desire to distribute this knowledge to others. We may not have realized it, but in Srila Prabhupada's books are saturated with realized knowledge. They're giving that to others. And some people are a little eligible to digest at least some of it. And gradually more they digest, the more they'll be able to digest. So we come here for the sole purpose of what? Pardon? You're full of answers. Has anyone else got an answer? Huh? You have an answer, young man? Where are you from? He doesn't know where he's from. People from Australia have no idea where they're from. He's an Aussie. What do you come here for? Huh? He came here to hear. Okay, that's a pretty good answer, isn't it? To hear. What do you think? Good answer or not? Pretty good. You could say many things, right? To serve, to associate with devotees, and you may have many other things you could say, to become purified in the presence of the Dhamma and the Dhamma. Or you may have some more specific things. I want to see the places where Lord Chaitanya's associates were and the pastimes. I want to see the deities. Each one of these is a class in itself. But to hear, he wants to hear. Hear what? The news of the day? Hear all the gossip? Latest GBC resolutions? What do you want to hear? Huh? The lobbying? 1976, that was going on. It was big time. I avoided it all. Tried to not find out what was going on. There were classes going on, 8 hours, 6 hours, 5 hours, whatever a day in the temple. We just go for the classes. Here, the subject. The subject of what? The subject of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a pretty good one. We want to hear about the process of devotional service, how we can become pure, how we can hear about the objective goal. This verse also gives the goal of life. Knowledge is meant to just not tell us how to live in the circumstance, but what is the purpose of it all? What is the goal of life, isn't it? Some of you are probably sportsmen or women. If you don't know what the goal is, do you win the match? You call it soccer or football? I don't know, whatever. I used to play that game. If you don't know what the goal is, you may be a good player, but you're not going to win the game. Kick it in the referee's face or something. You've got to know where the goal is, what the goal of life is. Otherwise, where on earth are you going? I'm not sure. You get in a bus and you say to the conductor or the driver, where are you going? He said, I don't know. You say, where are you going? I don't know either. You've got a problem. You have to know where you're going. We may not be there, but we just have knowledge at least. Because there's many things here, faith and so on, are so intertwined with the absorption of this topic. Faith is developed by? How? How it's faith? There are many ways we can say, but I mean, in essence, it's developed by association. Appropriate. Faith is broken very easily by association. Inappropriate. You come here to get good association. Because by association it changes our, you could answer that again in many ways, perception of what we're seeing. We may be seeing the deity when we have some faith and we have some knowledge, and we're attracting that knowledge on our vision, you could say. But we still have a mundane vision of others and a mundane vision of the world. But when we hear in the right association, our perception of how we see can change. Like Srila Prabhupada. When we read his books carefully, we start to see things differently, don't we? Isn't it? Have anyone had that experience? You're really seeing things from me in the center. You know, you're really in that type of mood. I'm the center of the universe type of mood. And if you do have the good fortune to read, then suddenly your vision becomes a little bit focused again. A little bit refocused. You get relief from the horror of putting ourselves in the center. The nightmare that comes from that. Which means birth, death, disease, and old age. Changing our perception. Well, talking about time, it's overtime. I'm a terrible follower of time, and that's life. I'm not a very good judge of time. Prabhupada was expert. I haven't started on the topic we wanted to talk about, but that's life. We touched on it, but didn't go in there. Hare Krishna. Well, if there's one question, and please don't put your hand up because you had your hand up too long. You must be very tired with putting your hand up. Yes, Prabhu. Assume it. Well, you know one thing? Assume it can be done. In today's verse, the word assume is in the verse. He has now assumed, it says in the verse today. So the word assume is related. Okay, carry on.
Hare Krishna. It's a reflection, but also a question. I wanted to hear what you thought, because I noticed that...
Reflections?
It's a reflection, but also a question. I wanted to hear what you thought.
A reflection and a question.
I noticed that Srila Prabhupada is keeping this diary, but he's writing it in English, which is not his native language.
Yeah.
And I was wondering if you knew or had a thought of why that is, because I was thinking maybe he anticipated that his future Western disciples will be reading it, or is that a far-fetched idea? What do you think?
Yeah, well, I don't know anything more than what we read. So whether or not it's been translated, I don't think so. There are certainly in the Jaladuta diary, there are some sections which have been translated into English. But this one, I'm not sure. But whatever it is, we can understand, for instance, in this incorporation or this Institute for God Consciousness, International Institution for God Consciousness, he's dealing with Westerners. They're all Western people. They're not from the same culture. Certainly not from Bengali culture. So he's writing it, obviously, and I think your reflection has a serious aspect of reality in the sense that, yes, whether he was directly thinking in the future, because there was no sign at that time of any serious followers. There was no temple in the ISKCON world. There were no disciples. There were no books. There was no money. There was nothing, basically, except for Srila Prabhupada, and he had his Bhagavatams with him. Many of the comments he made there was a bookstore, Paragon Bookstore, I think it was called, and they were holding his books, and Prabhupada would get the books from them whenever he needed. 2 books, 2 sets of books. In fact, Paul Murray was one of the first ones to purchase a set of Prabhupada's books, one of them. And he writes this all in his diary, you know. I mean, isn't this inspiring to us how Srila Prabhupada was going through these, we call austerities, going through this sacrifice for the world? He himself said that when he arrived, he thought that when I start telling them about our lifestyle, no meat eating, no gambling, no illicit sex, no intoxication, They will tell me, and Prabhupada says this in his own words, they will tell me, Swami, go home. He once said he didn't expect that this possible, that these people would be able to adapt this way of life. Maybe they could chant. Maybe I could introduce the book somewhere. But now you see, of course, there are so many, I don't know how many devotees, but so many devotees all over the world chanting Hare Krishna and following Srila Prabhupada's footsteps. Isn't it? I don't know numbers. In Russia, I know there's enormous quantities. And many other countries. People who before were engaged in all these illicit activities. Many of us were. Those from Indian origin, maybe not. But most of us Westerners were. Sex was the religion, practically. It was drugs and sex was like our religion. I don't know about you, Sri Kama. With me, it was like, I used to go to Amsterdam. I didn't go to associate with Paravita Prabhu. I used to go there for other reasons. To Amsterdam. Famous, huh? You know, we were coming from, as the oozing sewer coming out of the pipe. We were like that stuff oozing out of the pipe somehow or other. And Prabhupada purified us a little bit, at least. You know. And we take it for granted. We're sat here in Mayapur now. You know, oh, I don't like that restaurant over there. It was too expensive. You know, the pizzas are too expensive. You know, oh, my mattress is lumpy. We kind of take it for granted. You know, there's no aircon in my room. The gulabs were not cooked properly. Oh, it's too blimmin' hot around here. Too many mosquitoes. Yeah, we take it for granted now. It's like, you know. I mean, in 1976, I don't know before that, I never came. The mosquitoes were in clouds. They weren't just sitting around. It was like there were clouds of mosquitoes. You had to go like this to get through the mosquitoes. Practically swimming through a, an ocean of mosquitoes. I don't know what it's like, you know. I guess it's still there, but maybe there's a lot more. There's a lot more, let's say, obstacles to eat now than there were then, maybe. But we try to take it for granted and complain sometimes. Hopefully not, but sometimes it happens. You knew you got sick. God bless you, wasn't it? You got sick. You had to lie on the floor, until something happened. There wasn't much else. Sometimes maybe a doctor would be found somewhere if you were lucky. They were not there. Anyway, you could go on and on. So I can say for sure that whatever reason, the direct reason it is, Krishna had his plan, and this was certainly part of Krishna's plan to give us this opportunity to deepen our appreciation and our devotion to Srila Prabhupada, and to have a little inkling of what he gave and continues to give. Whatever we have is all his mercy. We may be proud or not proud, but whatever we've got is all Prabhupada's mercy. We're nothing otherwise. Mundane materialists. Srila Prabhupada has given us everything and still continues to give everything through this mission, through his books, through his followers, and so on. And now you have such wonderful facilities here in Mayapur and all the wonderful devotees who are developing and have developed this amazing facility for the whole world, basically. In 1966, the headquarters of the International Institute for God Consciousness was a tiny little room in New York. And there was nothing outside it, by the way. It was both the headquarters and there was only one quarter. There was no other quarter, nowhere else. And now you have hundreds and thousands of temples and restaurants and God knows what. And Mayapur and so many other projects here, isn't it?